you're like me and you love nature, having to stay inside all the time can be a real downer. But if you're lucky enough to have a garden or a green space you can access, it's not all bad. Nature is out there, you just have to know where to look. So today I thought we'd do some garden bird watching. Just one problem though. There's not a lot out there, but I think there might be something we can do about that. Come with me. So last summer I put this bird feeder in the garden. Unfortunately it's seen very little action. Occasionally some birds will visit it, but not that many. And I'm thinking that the positioning in the garden just isn't good enough. It's quite exposed here, and some of the birds are probably a little bit too timid to visit this feeder here when there's no real shelter, there's no bushes, no trees anywhere around it. So I think what we'll do is we're going to move this over to another part of the garden where there is some shelter, nearby a tree or that sort of thing, and hopefully we'll see a lot more activity. We'll also give this a bit of a clean up, put some fresh food in, put some more water in, and we'll see what happens. So here's the feeder. Here we have a Niger seed feeder, a mixed seed feeder and a peanut seed feeder. And in the dish are some mealworms, and at a later date I add some sunflower seeds in here. And lower down there is a suet block and of course the bird bath and another dish of water at the bottom. And now we wait. It didn't take long before the birds started to get interested. One of the most common visitors is the starling. At first glance they can seem rather nondescript, but take a closer look at their plumage and I think they are one of the most beautiful birds to be commonly seen. They have this wonderful iridescent glossy sheen to them with gorgeous purples and greens. They can be noisy and are often seen in flocks. It's the starling that performs the mesmerising murmurations that can sometimes be seen in the evenings. Despite being one of the most common visitors, starling numbers have declined across much of Northern Europe and the UK. They have fallen by as much as 66% in Britain since the mid-1970s, and because of this the starling is red listed as a bird of high conservation concern. The reasons for their decline are unknown, but it is thought to be linked to the loss of permanent pasture, increased use of farm chemicals and the shortage of food and nesting sites. They depend on soil invertebrates like earthworms and nether jackets, but they seem to favour the suet block and the mealworms on my feeder. It's not only starlings that visit the feeder, they will often feed alongside blackbirds, although they're not always friends. It's the males that live up to the name with a black plumage, but the females are brown, often with spots and streaks on their breasts. They're one of the most common UK birds, with over 5 million breeding pairs in the UK, and with the population rising to around 10 to 15 million birds with the arrival of European immigrants during winter. Male blackbirds establish a territory in their first year, which they hold throughout their lives. These territories are defended against all other blackbirds from spring until July, but after the last broods have fledged, the territorial behaviours relax as birds feed outside of their territories until they are re-established once more the following spring. Blackbirds can have 2 to 3 broods, sometimes 4 in a good year. The nests are constructed in suitable cover in low-level positions in trees, shrubs, or even on the ground. They will sometimes use the same nest multiple times. Here in the garden, blackbirds can often be seen foraging on the ground around the feeder, picking up the food dropped by other birds. They, like the starlings, favour the suet block, but they don't feed from any other feeder. Earthworms and caterpillars make up the majority of their natural diet. Another common visitor to the garden is the dunnock. This is a small, timid bird that is often seen feeding on the ground, but never far from cover. It often hides in a nearby hedge or holly tree, and when it feels the coast is clear, it will dart out to land on the mixed seed feeder, grab a seed and fly away. They actually have quite varied breeding habits. You could find one male paired with one female, more than one male paired with one female, or perhaps one male paired with more than one female, or even 2 males pairing with 2 females. In the case where one female has paired with more than one male, this often doesn't go down too well with the male, who will peck at the female's cloaca to try and remove his rival's sperm before mating with her himself. It's always the quiet ones. Let's move on to a bigger visitor now. The wood pigeon is the UK's largest and commonest pigeon, with well over 5 million breeding pairs. It can be identified and differentiated from other dove and pigeon species by the white neck patch and white wing patches which are visible in flight. It can be quite tame in urban settings, and its cooing call is a familiar sound. Their natural diet is buds, shoots, seeds, nuts and berries, and crops like cabbage, sprouts, peas and grains. On my feeder, it is the sunflower seeds that attracts it. A related bird that made a visit is the collared dove. This species came to the UK in the 1950s after a rapid spread across Europe from the Middle East. The collared dove is smaller than the wood pigeon, and its plumage is different too. It's a pale pink-brown colour and has a distinctive black collar which gives it its name. Now to move on to some rarer visitors to the garden. First up is the very recognisable blue tit. This attractive small bird can be seen visiting the peanut feeder, but only if you're quick, as they don't hang around for long. A common bird in woodland, parks and gardens, it can be seen hunting insects and spiders, and during nesting time it will feed its young on hundreds of caterpillars. They nest in holes in trees and also use garden nest boxes. Like most birds, blue tits can see ultraviolet light. Studies have shown that the blue crown on their heads glows brightly under UV light. The brightness of the feathers is thought to provide a variety of signals. For instance, male blue tits have been shown to choose females with brightly coloured crowns as they make fitter mothers. Similar to the blue tit in appearance at first glance, this blink-and-you'll-miss-it visitor is the great tit. It is the UK's largest tit and can be quite aggressive, fighting off smaller birds to claim the food at the feeders. This one is the male, as indicated by the thick black stripe down its breast. The sound and sight of this bird are unmistakable. The magpie is part of the crow family and seems to be a jack of all trades. It eats carrion, insects, berries and will catch small mammals and other birds. Some people take a dim view of magpies as they will take eggs from other birds' nests, and some people blame them for the decrease in numbers of songbirds. However, studies have looked into the effect of magpies on songbird numbers and have concluded they have very little impact. Magpies were very common in Britain until the mid-19th century. They were popular with farmers because they eat harmful insects and rodents. But from then until the First World War, their numbers plummeted due to heavy persecution by gamekeepers. Since the Second World War, their numbers have increased, and they stabilised around 1990, suggesting that magpie populations have reached an ecological equilibrium. The feeder hanging closest to the camera is a specialised feeder designed for Niger seed. This seed is the favourite of the goldfinch. This is an extremely attractive bird, brightly coloured and sociable. They have long, fine beaks that allow them to extract small seeds from thistles and teasels that other birds can't get. They will also feed on the seeds of dandelions and ragwort, as well as feeding on insects too. Some goldfinches migrate away from Britain during winter, travelling as far south as Spain. Those that stay may form flocks of up to 100 birds. The collective term for goldfinches is a charm, and it certainly would be charming to see a flock land in your garden. I've been filming the birds for this video for around 2 weeks, but as I began editing this video I heard a bird chirp loudly outside. I knew it was coming from the garden, and it wasn't the bird I'd heard since moving the feeder. I rushed to the window and there I saw this little bird. It's a house sparrow. Originally native to Europe and Asia, house sparrows have colonised every continent except Antarctica. They are now the most widespread birds in the world. They can be a bit tricky to see as they favour the energy ball feeder that's hidden behind the Niger feeder. I think it's no coincidence that the sparrows appear on the day I hang this new feeder, and have been a regular garden visitor since. The females are the lighter brown coloured ones with the stripes on either side of their heads, and the males are the darker brown with the grey caps and a black bib. The bigger the bib, the more important the male. Breeding pairs often remain faithful to each other and their nest site for life. They nest in holes filled with dry grass and lined with hair, string, paper and feathers, which they may even pluck the feathers from a live pigeon. Despite having colonised the world, here in the UK they are a red-listed bird due to their numbers dropping by up to 60% since the 1970s. Well, that's it for this video, and I must admit I've really enjoyed getting to know the birds that have visited my garden over the last 2 weeks while making this video. My knowledge of birds has always been pretty poor, but this has definitely inspired me to learn more, and I'm now on the lookout for any other bird that may cross my path. Well, thank you so much for watching today. Please let me know what birds you've seen in your local area down in the comment section, and if you have any advice for a novice birdwatcher, please do let me know. I hope to see you in the next video, so until then, goodbye.